I just wanna see who you are. A time flies so down the goodbyes. We'll spend the night staring up at the stars. See, I was told long ago, me and you was gonna go far. And if so, please let me know, 'cause you know I couldn't do you no harm.
Welcome to the Lisa Logic podcast. This is week 2 already. Yes, I came back for a second week, and this week is a very special week. Well, the first week was a very special week, but this week is very special too. This week we are focusing on mental health. We did a wee bit of it last week, but this week we're going to dive a little bit deeper into it. And I would first off like to say that any thoughts or opinions of anything discussed in this show are literally mine and mine alone. So I am owning everything that's going to come up. So people don't panic. I'm not going to mention names. People are watching it now and they're like, oh my God, she's going to mention me. Don't worry. But you might work out who it is. So I am excited to say I have Sarah Barr on the show from New Beginnings Council. And she technically should be classed as co-founder of the Lisa Logic podcast, because without her, this would not be here. And you may ask, how? Well, I went to Sarah a long time ago now and did a good bit of work with her on myself, because this podcast wouldn't be here because A, I had zero self-belief of myself, B, I had a lot of past stuff that I did not deal with, and C, can't work out a C. I think there was just a lot of stuff that needed to be dealt with before I got this. I think I had a lot of imposter syndrome, all of which we're going to talk about in this week's podcast. So I hope you're enjoying listening, watching, and if you're watching this to support me, thank you very much. And if you're watching this because you're waiting to see what the hell she's going to say next, well, tune in for more. So over to Sarah now. Sarah, thank you for coming on
Thank
this
you for
week's
asking me,
podcast.
Lisa.
I am
It is
honoured.
a first.
First, hopefully not the last one, because maybe after this you'll do a lot more.
Maybe.
So, would you like to start off by telling me, tell the listeners and viewers what exactly it is you work with and what you do?
Okay, so I am a counsellor. I am an integrative counsellor, and I set up my practice in 2016. So at the time when I set up my practice, I had just went back to college for the second time. I had studied the counselling degree part-time. I was working full-time and I was a single mum, so it was very, very full-on.
Tough.
Yeah. And then you finish your degree and it's like, great, get a job. But like everything in life, it's not always straightforward.
No.
So I thought, right, I'm just going to have to make this happen myself. And I came up with the idea to open up my own practice. And I suppose with the power of social media, Instagram was kind of really starting to evolve, I think, around 2016.
That would be nice.
Yeah. So I just started my page, started putting myself out there. You talk about imposter syndrome. That is something I deal with. I think the majority of people, if they're really honest, deal with imposter syndrome.
It's so good. I don't know why you'd have imposter syndrome.
But I think you need it as well, so you don't get too cocky. You know, you don't get too arrogant. You need it to keep in check.
I don't know if you could get like in Donegal, I think. Well, I don't know. I say that now, and there's probably certain people who'll be like, "No, I get
Own
it now." Own it. Yeah, sometimes I suppose you can get like. I was looking at this like, just for example, an influencer's account, last week, and she was saying whenever she started, actually, she'll not mind me actually discussing on here, accounts down under.
Mm-hmm.
She started getting really big whenever she came back from Australia and started working here, and her numbers started going up. And she said she became just so cocky because she's seen like her TikTok going up, her Instagram.
And that's that external validation.
Yeah.
Then that's feeding into
She
the
was
ego
like, she
and
wasn't
making you
confident, but she was like, when
Yeah.
she's seen all these likes and all these followers, she was like, I'm the shit. Look at me. Who's like me? And she was like, then it took me some. I think she went off alcohol. That was what it was. And she was like, who was I sitting thinking that I
Fair
was?
play to her for having that self honesty and being able to
to
reflect
on.
because I think a lot of the times, and like you might agree with this as well, one of the main reasons you decide to do something or to step outside of your comfort zone or set up your own business isn't really about you. You know, like in our case, it's because we have two daughters. Well, you know, at that point, and it was, okay, I have to do it for you. It's not necessarily...
You don't have a choice whenever you have somebody relying on you.
And then that over time gradually builds up your confidence. So I work generally with women. I am getting more men through the door, which is great. Mainly with women, mainly maybe from the ages of like 18 to 50. There's more younger people definitely now reaching out.
Probably because of social media.
Social media, and I think the whole influence maybe coming in as well from America, or calling it therapy. It's more normal, and there's less stigma.
Yeah,
Which
because
is
I remember
fantastic.
whenever I reached out to you, I think it was COVID. Was it COVID?
Yeah, it would have been.
I had more time on my hands. I think everybody was doing 50 laps around their area at that stage. And I think when I was going out for walks and runs, I had more time to think, because my life, anybody watching will know this, I used to make myself so busy that I didn't have time in my own head, because I didn't want to be in my own head, because there
No,
was
so
stuff
you
that I
just
didn't want to deal with.
yeah, and I think that's why, especially after COVID, more people might have reached out for counselling, because during COVID, as you said,
Yeah.
people didn't have that coping strategy of keeping themselves busy to
Yeah.
distract themselves from their thoughts or from their feelings.
So you're like
they
trapped.
were
You're literally
sat
trapped.
with what they were trying to run from, but it's like, shit.
I was just glad I wasn't on one of them high block flats in Dublin whenever I was doing,
Yeah.
because I was like, I wouldn't have coped, because sometimes being in your own head is the worst place that you can be
It can be a
sometimes if you're
prison.
not dealing with things.
Yeah.
Because I liked whenever I went to you, sometimes when we started, actually, and if anybody started counselling, they'd be like, how, or anybody looking to start counselling, you're going to be like, how do you actually start?
I
And
know
this is
so
why
many
I
people
avoided it.
come in and they're like, I don't know where to start. I don't know what to talk about. And it's like, you just talk about whatever and see what naturally comes up, and just
she said
and
this
just
to me.
go with it.
Do you remember you
Yeah.
said this to me, and I was like, I don't know where to go. And it was I think I felt awkward, because I was like, what do you talk about? And then I felt, then why am I here? What I felt like, that I didn't need to be there, because I remember saying to you, there's people that have worse problems out there, and you were like, no, your problems are your problems, and you're allowed to talk about them. And I was like, I don't even know where to start. And I remember you started really small. You started telling me, I remember, like, we were talking about this before we went live, actually, that there's 60 to 80,000 thoughts a day that you have in your head. And you told me that sometimes you have to file them in a cabinet until you're willing to deal with them. And then whatever we were on about, then you were like, I think it was, I started a new job and I was unsure if I was able for the work. And you were like, pretend you're in a courtroom. Do you remember that? You're like,
Oh, yeah.
pretend you're in a courtroom and pretend you have to give evidence of why that you were feeling like this. And I was trying to think of the evidence, and all I came up with was, I'm just not good enough.
Because that was playing on your negative thoughts, your fear-based irrational thoughts. And if you break those thoughts down and challenge them with the idea of being in a courtroom,
Because I had the whole vision in my head.
I know. The judge would be like, what evidence have you got? And you'll be like, no.
That was something like
you'll
an
be
agent.
kicked
I was
out.
like,
yeah. And this is it. We never really have evidence or facts to back up our fear-based thoughts. It's like a child being afraid of a monster under the bed. To that kid, it's such a real fear. We know as adults that it doesn't exist. So our fears now, or our worst negative thoughts, is like our own monsters under the bed. And you've no evidence or no facts to support it. And I think that wee element of CBT is so simple and it's so effective. And I'd love to see more of that rolled out through secondary schools, because the younger you are, the easier it is to challenge those thoughts before they become core beliefs. Like you mentioned, that core belief of not being good enough, which is so common.
And most of our conversations were revolving around the fact that I felt, because I'll be willing to say it, like I felt not good enough for certain things, or certain like situations, or people, for instance, like past relationships and stuff was a big thing. Like I think the main factor was, it was always not feeling good enough, and it was like an imposter thing. If you were in a good situation, it was always like, do I deserve to be in this situation, or why did this happen, or did this happen because I wasn't good enough?
Yeah. Do you feel then, saying that and in reflection, that you would rely on how you make other people feel as something that would validate that being good enough belief? So the more you could help somebody or make somebody else's life better, The
I think
happier you felt.
I think I have that problem. Like I would do
People pleasing.
anything for anybody, and I can't say no. Like a lot of people, like if somebody asks me to do something even work related, no matter what I have on, I'll say, "Aye, that's no problem. I'll get
Then
to it."
what happens?
Well, what happens is, and everybody knows in this room, is Lisa reaches burnout, and
Yeah.
Lisa needs to take time off, and especially like I have a heart condition too. It's not good for me to do that, and I learned that the hard way. But when you're growing up wanting to like make people happy all the time or cheer people up with your personality or like be the joker person, like and then when you get older then wanting to do everything to make people happy or get the work done that needs to be done or go that extra mile and not get like say extra payment for it, for instance, because you just want to make everybody happy and everybody pleased. It's not healthy. It's not sustainable
It's not
ever.
possible.
No, because you're not making
No.
yourself happy.
No.
Like if you look at it, it's alright making everybody else happy, but technically the people you have around you are like drains or radiators. I always say, like there's people that'll fill you with all that happiness and joy, and then there's people then that you're around and they will just drain the life out of you, and that's how you know that you're doing something that isn't for you.
So see now by you sitting here and doing your second podcast
Doing a
show.
podcast. Oh my god, I'm
This
very
is for
proud.
you, but this is something that you have created for yourself because this was an achievement that you wanted to do.
Yes, because this
So you
actually
focused
was
on
on
yourself.
this was on a free year every year, and I think a lot of people do this. Every year, I make a list of things that I want to do in a year, and I would say a lot of people do this. And for 3 to 4 years, a podcast was on my list, and I didn't do it because I felt like, what would people say? How do you go about it? If anybody wants to go about it, just go up to Tom in full tilt, by the way. Just a wee plug for him there.
We plug for Tommy.
But it's like all you have to do is like there's this podcast I actually listened to today, Mel Robbins. Do you follow her?
Yeah.
And she said if you can take 5 minutes out of your day or 10 minutes to work on a dream that you want, something simple as like actually researching how to go about it, or like what would the steps be, or what kind of course you'd need to do, whatever you want to do. Say if you want to study something, or like podcasting, I got in touch with Tommy about it to figure out how to go, and then I had a meeting. It took me a lot, but it took me to actually find myself and have a belief in myself.
Yeah.
Before
And
I
then
could get
figure out
this-
your steps.
my steps, because the steps were important. You
You
can't
need
just like
the steps.
run on.
Yeah. And what I've started to do, oh my God, maybe since the beginning of the summer, actually, when you talk about setting a 3-year goal plan, I've
Maybe
broken it
3
down
year?
to like once a month.
That's a better
So
goal.
this is about maybe
realistic. That's
witchy,
more realistic. though.
But yeah, but so on the filming, there is a group of us that would go down to the
I'm
beach.
dying to do that.
It's amazing.
There's one up in Nairn in Port now that
Yeah.
a friend of mine does,
You
and I've been dying
should.
to do it.
And you write down what you want to let go of, you burn it, you get into the water, and then you write down your intentions, which basically are just goals. You know, you can call them intentions or manifestations. They're simply just goals that you want to work on. So I like the idea, because there's a film in every month.
Yeah.
I like the
So you have a
idea
month.
that you have that goal to work towards, like that is your deadline. So then you can reflect on where you're at with those goals or with those
And how are you
intentions.
getting on with your goals as you're
They're
like,
good.
Yeah, oh, you're actually doing it? That's good.
Yeah, they're good. They're like working.
I've
But
decided
it's because
now
you're focused on it. It's not magic. I don't think it's because you're focused on.
that you
Like
want to
you
get it
got
done.
here because you were focused on getting here. You made it happen. Nobody done it for you.
No.
Yeah, but you had the
Tommy
idea.
did.
You had the idea in your head to do it, and you made it happen. So I think if you're focused on something enough,
Then
and
you
you
get
want
there.
something enough, and you work hard enough, then of course you can.
I think
Well, the chances are
sometimes
high that you can do it.
I think sometimes you have in your head, like I always have in my head, that you worry about what people think, and then
Yeah.
you worry if you're capable of doing it, and then you worry about, would I be good enough to do something? Like I was worried about, would I be capable to do this? And like even before we recorded, I was like, what am I doing?
You were
But
trying
the
to do
one-
a wee meditation.
I was trying to do meditation. I can't do meditation for life. It's like a circus in my head, but now that's for another podcast. I might do a podcast on that actually. But I think that core belief was stemmed down to the fact that of not feeling good enough. Like I think a lot of us think that you're not good enough, but people don't realize like your time is like. I sometimes think you're walking around with a milk carton expiry date on top of you, and it's awful saying that, but technically we are. You don't know how long you have. You don't know how short you have either.
Yeah.
Like I think sometimes I think what happened to me was when I ended up in the hospital last summer, and I got a big tattoo of it. It's like time's very short, and sometimes you don't realize how much time you have, and sometimes you have to be like, there's no point having goals on paper
Mm-hmm.
and carrying on each year writing the same goal down if you're not going to like tackle it, because you're going to end up in a, God forgive me, like, but it could be a wheelchair or a nursing home, and you're going to sit back and be like, what did I do with my life? Like,
Yeah.
what did I do, or why didn't I do it?
Sometimes you just have to get out of your own way
Yeah,
and get out of your own head and just do it, because people will always think. And you know what? Like, a lot of people, obviously, including myself, we all worry about what people will think, or we all have a negative label like that we attach to ourselves.
yes.
And the negative label is often a label that somebody else has called us, and we've
Yes.
just decided that we'll keep it for the crack. So, like, mine says, "Oh my God, don't be a dose."
And mine says, don't be dramatic.
Yeah.
I've always said that, don't be dramatic, for
So you
some
be a
reason.
dramatic, you be dramatic, and I'll be a dose.
And I don't think I'm ever dramatic. People
No.
might argue about this, but I don't think
It's
I'm
your
ever dramatic.
energy. It's good energy. But so I think at the end of the day, you worry more about what people are thinking about you. How often do you actually think about other people?
I don't, and you know what?
No, majority of people are
don't.
like that.
And people don't pay any attention. And even if they did have like a comment pass, like your yesterday's news, like I'll play the podcast, and I'll probably be the topic of being like, who does she think she is? But in another couple of days, something else will be on social media
It's
and
really
news,
not
and,
that big
and
a
it's not a
deal.
big deal.
No.
And technically, what somebody once told me, technically what happens is people do have a comment to make. It's because they didn't have the guts to go after what they wanted to do, and they're
So
sitting
it's a
being
bit of
like,
projection.
yeah.
Mm.
And I do
So-
believe that.
Dramatic, where does that come from then?
Oh God, she's asking me questions now.
The
This,
roles are
this-
reversed.
this wasn't the agreement here. I don't know. I think I put it on myself. I think probably my mommy will probably would say this. I was such a good child until I was in my teenage years. But I wasn't I wasn't like
a rebel.
a rebel. Like
I was
always
a
say,
rebel.
were you actually a rebel?
Yeah.
I can't imagine you being a
Oh,
rebel.
I was such a rebel.
I can't. Your daughter, I think, I can imagine being a rebel.
The youngest, not the eldest. She's very sensible.
Really?
I love telling her about like my rebel days just to make her cringe. She's so embarrassed.
See, I would have been dramatic in hair colour for you, because we were talking about this before I started filming. For every stage of my life, something went wrong or I needed a fresh start, I changed my hair colour.
Something that you could control, something that you could
control,
change and
because-
change your identity
and
in
change
a way.
my identity.
Yeah.
And because with the hair colour came the radical outfits and everything else too.
But a lot of that was self-expression too.
I like to say that to my mommy, but mommy probably would say something else. And my sister actually was talking about this last day. She's getting married now, and she warned me not to do anything crazy with my hair. But my hair has actually been the same colour for a good few years now, bar maybe like a little like dusty pink thrown on for good measure, but something that was washed out. But that's because I'm more settled and stable, which is actually something, a label that I said to you when we worked together too. I always brought up stability
Mhm.
and like settled were two very important things that I wanted to be classed as,
Why do you think that is?
because it felt safe. Like I think sometimes you want, like especially when you have children,
Hmm.
sometimes like my past, if Lisa now met Lisa back even when I had Caitlin,
And we've talked about
yeah,
this
we've
as
talked
well.
about this, she wouldn't recognise her. She'd be like, who is this doll? Especially on a podcast and doing what she's doing. Where did she get, who does she think she is? Basically, she probably would say, where did she get the
But
confidence
what would
to
you
do it?
say to her then if that's what she would say to you? What would you say back in response?
Oh God. I would well, do you know what? Depending on what year we're going back to, I would say, being very, very honest here, I would say don't give up and get yourself out of your shitty relationship, and that sometimes you think that things will get worse. But yes, they do get worse, but they'll eventually end up getting better. But
So
You're-
take control of your own life, basically.
take control, because you can't let other people's opinions or society's opinions let you lead your life. Like I remember, like it's okay to say, I remember like my family and I thought like if we broke it up that Caitlin would have an awful upbringing because it was kind of an our like time, like my mum and daddy and stuff, like we had like the family and that felt like the safe, stable thing.
Mm.
And I thought if this relationship breaks down, it's only me and her. And like I'm going to wreck her life basically. Because sometimes when you watch EastEnders and Coronation Street, like cat litter type thing, I'm like, my Wayne's just going to be, it's going to be a disaster for her. And sometimes you stay in things longer like than you would want to stay in things and you think it's a good thing for them but it's not. And then I realised then that she's so much happier and we're so much happier as parents like with Caitlin when we're not together, which I think is really important. But taking them steps and moving on, like being a single mommy and like moving house and living on your own. Like I remember there was like one Christmas and I said this to you, I was doing freelance writing for a magazine. That was my only income. And then like single mommy money, whatever that wasn't much when you took like say €150 rent out of it. And I remember it was a really bad winter and I was like, how am I going to cope? Like, what am I going to do? Like, cause like coal, oil. Like, I remember there was like one of them prepaid power things, and I swear to God, if I'd been prepaid power system, I hated it because it beeped whenever it went down, like to €10 or something. And I remember like freaking out. I was like, oh my
Panic
God,
started.
you freak
And
out.
I think if you've had that personal experience and the way society, the economy is at the minute,
I would
that
say there's
the
a lot
story,
more
the story
people
that you're
like me.
telling now isn't unfortunately a story from the past that has ended.
Yeah.
It's still a really relevant story.
Because you
today.
see it actually on Letterkenny Babies. I love Letterkenny Babies at Christmas time, and I remember wanting to write to Letterkenny Babies back then, but I had the stigma of pure shame. I was like, not because like I knew the girls doing Letterkenny Babies, and I was like, you can't write to them and say that you're stuck. And I could have,
I know.
and people would help because I see it every Christmas. And I started actually a thing with St. Vincent de Paul. I remember with Made Up Mummy was doing a wee thing too. She actually did a big donation of makeup for teenagers for Christmas and stuff. And I got like money donated because I remember how hard it was. And I remember like sleeping with piles of blankets and stuff on top of our bed to keep her warm because I was like, I'm going to be a failure as a mommy if like this.
But see, like you thinking that then I'm going to be a failure as a mommy.
Yeah.
And now where you're at, looking back, like you were far from a failure.
But then,
do you feel so proud of her?
do you know why that is?
Because she had that self-resilience.
Yes.
And that fight, and she was a survivor.
Sometimes I would like to remember it.
And she got through. And like, even when you were saying there as well, like, do you think this too, that, like our own parents' generation and ones now in their 20s and younger, that we're like the generation or the decade linking the two together because a lot of those societal norms. Or ideas
yes.
of how things should be are fading away, which is great.
Oh yeah.
But we're like in the middle. We're a tug of war because it's like the beliefs and values you were brought up with and what was deemed as right and wrong versus what makes you happy and what doesn't make you happy. So we're kind of in the.
Do you know what's funny? Like, see,
in the middle.
I was like, I had a very happy like childhood. Like, I did have a happy childhood, but like, mommy and daddy's opinions about stuff would have been a lot different to like, say, me and my sisters.
Yeah.
And you'd always try to adhere to your mommies and daddies, but like, I remember like when you were in the single mommy life, like asking for help, like just wasn't the thing. Or like, whenever you're down the dumps, you're kind of told not like get yourself up, get over it. Like, a part of me's thankful for that in a way, and then a part of me's like, no, because people should like, I think there's a lot of people in our age bracket, the people should have been like, are you all right? Do you want to talk about it? Is there anything we can do? As opposed to, come on, get up over it.
I know, but that mindset is the mindset that was here for years on end. Like we were saying, it's only really in the last 4 years that there is a lot more openness and a lot more conversation around mental health and the importance of looking after our mental health, be it going to counselling, be it exercise, cold water, swimming, moonwalks, meditations. We all have found, or hopefully we all will find something that will help help us, and that negative stigma of mental health is definitely decreasing. You know, I see younger people now, people under the age of 20, reaching out for counselling themselves,
Yeah.
which is fantastic. Telling their friends.
Yeah, because
you
it's not
know,
a big, it's not as
No,
big a thing, and people
it's not
talk
a
about
big
it now.
deal.
Whereas people kept, I think, like when I was at school, or even actually when I was at college, if people had problems, it was kept secret. Like I remember a friend of mine was going through a lot, and it was like under the carpet. We don't talk about it in front of people. And like I remember thinking, like, there's so many people around you that care.
But you grew up then believing that you can't talk about things, and believing that, you know, it'll bring shame or embarrassment, or you'll be deemed,
Yeah,
you
like,
know.
yeah, like the Debbie Downer
Yeah.
is sometimes of like the group by just being honest about how you feel, like, and especially men's mental health. I think like I was had my podcast last week. We talked about it. Like I would have been the boys' girl. I used to have like so many. Still would be a wee bit like, but the boys kind of now are all like settled and happy, and they have like their halves, which I'm so happy for now, because I don't have to listen to half the stuff. But a lot of them back when we were growing up, they would only talk about their problems when they were like drinking. Or whenever they were on their own. Yet and all, a lot of the group would have had the same kind of problems, but they just wouldn't talk to each other about it.
Yeah. I do think men are starting to open up a wee bit more and coming to counselling. Like, it's definitely
Because you
daunting.
said you have a lot
yeah.
more now.
And I suppose you do work slightly different with men than you would with women, because we are different.
The stuff she had to do with me was like,
because you're so visual,
Sarah. I would just like to talk. I will openly say what we had to do.
And the things that we've done isn't what I would do with every client either.
Well, we talk about Ariel.
Okay, you can tell them about Ariel.
I'll talk about Ariel. For somebody that talked a while lot and talks a while lot.
You don't often talk a lot about yourself, or you didn't in a deeper.
I wouldn't. It's probably only
way, maybe.
past, I'd say, 2 years. I would say I've become more vocal about my opinions as opposed to keeping them myself. Because I remember when I started with Sarah, that night I had I couldn't understand it. My throat felt like it was going to close up. Do you
like
remember?
a lump in your throat.
And I couldn't even describe it, because whenever I started, it was a Zoom call. That was what it was. It was a Zoom call. And whenever I started, I felt like I couldn't breathe. And it was because there was so much stuff that I was keeping down. It was like a pressure cooker. It was like a pressure cooker. It was like everything was kept in, and it was just dying to get out. And when I started talking, my throat felt like a little better, which was really, really weird. But as my sessions with Sarah went on, basically then I got better talking. I think sometimes conversations ran into something else, and
just
maybe
naturally.
because you never actually asked questions. It kind of, sometimes I talked, and then you were like, well, how did that make you feel in that situation, or what was happening then?
Pick up certain words or certain things, so you keep it very non-directive.
But Sarah, actually, you got me. We'll talk about Ariel first, actually. Ariel, if anybody remembers, was a Disney film. She was a character in The Little Mermaid. And Ariel lost her voice at one stage, didn't she, for a long time? For a good part of the film, actually, she lost her voice. But anyway, then she found her voice again then, and Sarah told me, she goes, why don't you get yourself a little Ariel, like miniature, or something to symbolise Ariel, and take it with you to remember to use your voice. Wasn't that it? So I went to the Disney shop when I was in Dublin, like a child, and I got myself a little Ariel, which I take in my handbag most times.
Where is she today?
She's not with me today because I changed handbags. But she normally stays with me because my wee girl Caitlin always actually asks, and I always tell her this is to remind you that sometimes it's good to let your voice or your opinions out, obviously within reason. But I kept so much to myself that I think it was very important that I had Ariel to remind myself.
Yeah, but it was also a big step for you to let it out, to give yourself permission.
I didn't want to upset people, I think, with my opinions or how I felt, because in every situation,
but then you're not being fully authentic if you don't say what you want to say all the time.
That's why Lisa Logic is unfiltered, completely unfiltered, and everything is being said. We're not doing any cuts there, but no, I think it was important. We're not doing cuts. We're not doing cuts. So whatever you're saying is being put out somewhere.
I thought we were doing cuts.
Well, we can do if you're saying anything really bad, but no. So Ariel, we have Ariel. And then the other thing you got me to do was,
I got you to do a good few visual, because as I said, there's different techniques and strategies that can be used within counselling depending on the person's personality
So mine's just
and
because
their
I was so
mindset.
out there. Was that it?
You're so visual. So say anything to do with art or like a wee, like aerial, like that wee representation
Or
will
the
work well
painting
for
of
you.
my voice.
Yeah. So do you remember what was
my
it we've
heart.
done? I do
Oh,
it sometimes with
yeah.
clients and client work is
I
we
actually go.
we don't see feelings. We can't hold them. They aren't solid. And sometimes they're really difficult to verbalize. So
I still
if
have
you
that
just
picture.
I say sometimes, and they probably think I'm mad for saying it, but if you could lift that, say if it was in your chest, if you could lift that feeling out of your chest and hold it in your hands, what would it look like? Like what colour would it be?
Mine
What
was
shape?
fiery,
What size? And
red,
draw it.
very
And then you
red.
break it down. Yeah.
Very red, orange, and then I think then you said then if I took this out, if you lit that out, what would it look like? What would it feel like? And I remember it was like this piercing blue colour, and it was cold, but it felt like only way I could say it was like it was really weird. It was like healing. So then I realised then I'm keeping all this pain basically
And burning.
burning anger probably like a little bit.
So what would it be now? We should have brought some colours and some
I
paper.
think, you know what? It would be, you know what's really funny? I would say like a cool green.
Green's
cool,
a healing colour.
Oh,
Green and
that's good.
purple, yeah.
So it'd be cool, calm and collected, I think now, because I think sometimes when you deal with the things that you need to deal with, things get a little bit better. Because I used to put everything under a carpet. Talking about carpets, that was the other
Oh,
thing.
yeah.
Remember my Hoover days?
I know.
I used to have this
So like
thing.
one wee speck, wasn't
One wee
it?
speck, because I had that much when things used to annoy me. I
Or
remember.
spiral, maybe a little bit out of control for you. Again, like your hair, what you can control. Oh, and right behind you now, I see one tiny speck.
I was so OCD. I was so OCD back then. So OCD. That was when
No,
Caitlin was really wee.
But I think as well, sometimes when our anxiety is higher, and we all have anxiety, nobody gets away with no mental health issues or problems in their life. If it's not something internal, then we go through hardships, we go through difficulties that are going to affect our mental health.
Yeah.
But whenever we go through a major life change, like becoming a mommy, our whole sense of who we are and our identity shifts and changes, and we don't feel like we have
Yourself
full
anymore.
control, and we spiral. So we look within our environment as to what we can control, and one of those things is
Cleaning.
And this is what's came up when I would have done like the Mind and Mammy workshops.
Yeah.
Did
Did everybody else do that too? It wasn't just me.
No, it's
Oh,
really
okay.
really common. It's like the idea if you sit down, say 11 o'clock for a tea or coffee, no phone, no book, no distractions, how long would you actually be able to sit there with just your own thoughts? Chances are you take a couple of
I'd
mouthfuls.
still probably get up.
And you'd you start hoovering, and then you're washing the skirting boards, and then you're washing the walls, and it's just.
I had the cleanest house in Convoy, I would say, for a good 3 years. I would say you could have ate off my floor. Was
But were
that
you
clean?
happy?
No.
No.
Like I look back, like, and I said this to you. See, when I look back in pictures, yeah, I was happy. Like God, I wouldn't like I was happy, as in like I was happy, obviously, with like Caitlin and our life, like then. No, but like I felt like I lost me so much, and I was this girl that I wasn't Lisa, because like everybody knows like different stages. Like I always say, there's different seasons of your life,
Yeah.
and I felt like I went through so many different seasons over a really short period after having Caitlin, because she was unexpected. So I was in my second course of college, and like I had to stop that because I was that sick. And I remember thinking this wasn't the plan of how I envisaged my life. So I lost that control. Like I remember wanting to go to Ibiza to be like a rep, like an Ibiza weekend
Yeah.
rep. And the only time I stayed, everybody's like, I could have seen you doing that.
Yeah, I could see you do that.
But when I think back, I needed Caitlin, because I would have been probably a party girl my whole
Caitlin
life.
anchored you. But
Oh, yeah.
before that, it's still that wee element of grief, isn't it? Because you're grieving this
Girl you
person
used
that
to
you
be.
had, yeah, and this person that you had created in your head that you were going to be, and you were going to go to Ibiza.
Ibiza, Abu Dhabi. I had
You probably
a
still
lot.
would be in Ibiza
Well,
now.
you know what? I probably would have been them. Well, you see, like Jordan on Ibiza weekender, he's been there I don't know how many seasons. I think I probably could have carried it off pretty well, but I
Yeah, you
wouldn't
would have
want
done
to
a
be.
good job.
I don't think my mum and daddy would. They're probably like, right, Lisa, time to come home now. Like you've done this. Like it's time. Like,
Yeah.
but I do think like you do grieve your old life, But then I think then you get to a point then like where
You
you're like
catch up with yourself almost,
catch up
don't
yourself.
you? Yeah.
But when you look back, like I see pictures of me and like I'm a size 6, I'm unhealthy. Like I remember I was skin and bones and people were like people thought like I was like anorexic and stuff, but I was eating. But you know sometimes when you eat, but your body because you're so like sometimes mentally unwell and sometimes you've so much going on, like it used to just fall off me.
Stress was just too high.
I was like
Yeah.
skinnier probably after having Caitlin than I was before I had her, which was mental because normally it's like it takes ages normally to lose like baby, but I was very lucky
And like
technically.
your story there is a story of like thousands, millions of women.
I definitely had a bit of postnatal depression without knowing it.
I think a lot of women do. They say it's 1 in 4, but that's 1 in 4 that talk about it. That's 1 in 4 that recognize the symptoms. It definitely has to be higher. You know, postnatal depression, postnatal anxiety. And you think there's just too many elements involved.
It's a lot.
Mentally, emotionally, hormonally, physically, everything that
It's hard not like to have an effect. I remember I
Yeah.
wanted to like pack a suitcase and like just like go somewhere for like a money break, and I was like, and then I looked at like she was on a wee cot and be like, where do you think you're going? Packing a suitcase, going like for like a money break. You and her. This was
Yeah.
this was where my thought like was going.
What did you becoming a mum for the first time and having Caitlin and
I
having that baby,
freaked
what was like the biggest learning for you to take away from all that you maybe wouldn't have learned in your life had it not been
Do you know
for
what's
Caitlin for
do you know what's
becoming a mum?
really weird? People doubted, and still I think this is what strives me to do what I do. People doubted me as a mammy. They thought because I had the party girl lifestyle that as a mammy I'd be sending her like to the grandparents all the time. Whereas I was the opposite. I wouldn't let anybody near her. Other than I think my mammy, I think me and her daddy went to Belfast that Christmas that she was born, and I was nearly going to be sick that morning. I was like, I'm not leaving her. No, she was born in October, and I was like, Belfast Continental Market, like, wasn't for an overnight. It was a couple of hours up the road, but I was like, can't do it. And he was like, Lisa, come on. He was like, we'll do this every year, and I was like, no, I can't leave her. And he was like, she's with your mammy. My mammy's up the road. And I was
hard.
like, you don't know what it's like. You don't have one. And he was like, she is mine. And I was like, I know, but I was like, she's technically mine more because like I give birth to her and like we'd be together. Like, because you know, whenever at the start you're with each other every month of the day. And I was like, she's going to think I've left her. She's going to think I've abandoned her. But what's really drive me was people thought that I was going to be this certain way. And I wasn't. And then still, I always be like, no, she's the one thing that spurred me on to do what I do, because without her, like when we talked about that Christmas that we had like no money and stuff, I made a decision then, whatever I have to do to get us the life that we need, I will do. And like I did do. And like it's still hard. Like it's not, especially with the cost of living, like I'm still trying to work on our new house and stuff, and like every penny like is like I don't want to give it away, but like for us to have a secure life, as I keep saying, that's what I feel
It's
like
like
you
the
need to do.
center of all your goals, isn't it?
Yeah, security.
Secure, yeah.
Security, because I think
Because
it's
that's what
really
you were
important.
brought up with as well. That's what you know.
Yeah, and sometimes then I think when you're the single mommy, you think that not that she's missing out on anything, but sometimes I think you have to play double duty or like go do double because you don't have like somebody else in the equation there with you. So sometimes I probably do. I overboard. Remember talking about sometimes you people please too much. Sometimes I'll go overboard. My daddy says to me all the time. He's like, "You're not a mommy and a daddy." He's like, "You're a mommy."
That's where you have to keep yourself in check or you'll burn out again.
Because me and her would be running the roads like all the time, and like everybody's like, "Where are you off to now? Would you not like sit of peace?" But it's just one of them things I think then developed. It's just like a constant habit.
So what would be the one word then if you were to sum up all that period in your life? One word.
I was going to say dramatic.
No,
Don't want to say
not gonna say
dramatic.
dramatic. One word that whole experience taught you that you may not have been taught had it not been for that experience.
Strength.
Strength.
Because like so I used to always think that I didn't have it together, and I always think I like still to this day sometimes like, oh my god, I think it's a sentence that we all say, get your shit together. And I always feel like I'm running a circus with like these little minions, and they're all like running here, there, and everywhere,
Just
and
bouncing over
just but
in
like
your
my
head.
head.
Yeah.
And I've like, no, you've done so much. Sometimes you have to look back at where you've came. Like, see if
Take
I look
stock.
back at 22-year-old Lisa and looked at now, I'd be like, you've been through so much. Will you give yourself a break instead of kicking yourself? There's plenty
But
of
then
people
that's
kick
something that you
yourself.
could actually probably remind yourself of right now. Never mind looking back at 22-year-old Lisa.
Aye,
You know, tell yourself this now.
32-year-old Lisa. Am I
Yeah.
32? I think I'm 32. I was born in 1989.
I know
think
you
I'm 32.
forget. You
COVID
forget.
break. I've lost a birthday through COVID, and I
No, I just think you reach a certain age and you forget what age you are.
Or
And
is
I
that
think
fine?
you get stuck at an age. Do you know, like
I was 28 for a good few years until Caitlin said, then, Mommy, we need to up your age because people's going to start talking. Otherwise, I would have continued on being 28. And she was like, I need to move you to 29 when people ask what age your mum is. And I was like, that's a very good
So
decision.
what age
Caitlin.
are you?
I'm 30. I think I'm 33 actually, because I was born in 1989, and my 30th birthday was technically during COVID. So I
So
think
what, 2020, 2021?
yeah, was that right?
I
Is
don't
that
know.
right?
You should
I don't know. Somebody check my birthday.
Well, it
1989.
just dawned on me. I'm 38, and it dawned on me a few months ago that I'm 40 next year.
That's a big. You're
I-
38.
I know.
Oh, you're
I've-
39. Come on.
Yeah, in December, but I still thought in my head I have 2 years.
Oh yeah.
I kind of do, but not really. But next year,
Do you think like I used
I'm
to
going to
think?
go to Vegas.
Oh my God! I was just gonna say, like, what's your like milestone? Like, do you have a milestone you want to reach for being?
Just want to go to Vegas.
That's.
That's my milestone.
I had a milestone for 30, but I wanted to do 30 things before I'm 30. But like COVID
That's a
kind
lot
of
of pressure, though, as well. I think my main goal right now is just to say yes to as many things as I want to, and to have fun, and to, do the things that you need to do, obviously.
Yeah.
But maybe put more focus on yourself and
It's
have
actually
have
really-
more fun.
Because sometimes
You
when you reach
know.
adulthood, you think this is it. That's all I'm supposed to do is pay
Either that or
bills
midlife
and
crisis, one or the other. But it's working out so far. So
don't dye your hair
no, I'm not going to dye my hair.
or get tattoos. I don't.
No,
think-
I want to get another tattoo. I've got 3.
I'm not going to ask where they are because it's a live podcast in case it's on everyone.
They've got one here. I got when I was a student in Liverpool. I was meeting my friend and she was late. She was always late.
So you decided to get one on.
So I was standing looking around me and I noticed I was standing outside a tattoo. So I thought, why not? And I went up. But
You really were a rebel for the
oh
cause.
yeah. But he
Like
was
Sam
like,
Trunnion
he
the
was
second.
sitting smoking. He was so chilled, and it's really not the best star. But
No,
I
it's
kind of
not the
like it because
worst.
it's a wee bit imperfect. My first one was like the usual butterfly on your back.
Why did everybody get
I
that?
don't know. And then
Is it like the bottom of your back?
just on my side.
Oh no, that's okay. Because I wanted, what technically was a tramp class as a
Oh,
tramp stamp.
Yeah.
It's a huge tribal one, and my
Oh,
mommy was like,
yeah.
and you know what? I remember being like, "Mommy, shit crack. Mommy's this. Mommy's that." Thank God, Mommy, I did not get that because I would have spent a fortune on laser getting it off at this stage.
I know, but the thing is, nobody would ever see it. If you do have a tramp stamp, it's okay.
technically.
Nobody sees it. My second one was, the original Chinese symbol. Everybody was getting the Chinese.
Yeah. What does yours mean, really?
Oh,
It's probably like
it's
some
so
somewhere
bad.
in China tower, probably.
No. So I went and I was like, I like the look of that one, so I got it.
It's like
You ready?
serenity or something's probably supposed to be.
If only it means dangerous.
What?
So I am dangerous tattooed on
She's
me.
not like this anymore, by the way. She's like so
tattooed on me for life.
dangerous.
Dangerous.
I can't go with this information. You don't look like the type of person that would have got that done.
Yeah. Dangerous.
Like a rebel for the cause, just.
Yeah. So I do want to get another one now as well for my 40th. Down my back. Do you know, I think
Oh,
maybe like
the
a star
wee
constellation of when the girls were born,
Oh, that's
and a
actually
wee
so-
line between each one, and just have it, from your neck. But then the
That'd
only
be
thing
sore.
is, I'd have to wear something backless, which means I have to go to the gym, work on my back.
No,
That's
see,
a
all
lot of
I
effort.
hear is
Tell me it's too much.
a lot of hard work here.
I know.
So you're not of the opinion whenever you're 40, you need to have your shit together. Because when I turned 30,
No, like I think if you put pressure on yourself to have your shit together by a certain age, all you're going to be focused on is what you need to do and not actually enjoying life. Like, people don't have their shit together when they're 50, when they're 60, when they're 70.
I don't think you'll ever have your shit together.
No, and I think the point that you do, that's, like there's a theory called Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Oh, yes.
And it's kind of the idea that as humans, we're always striving for self-actualization to get to that point in life where we have our shit together, essentially.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't. And the people that do often find then that, say, I don't know, it was the climb Mount Everest. I was going to say Mount Errigal.
Mount
but
Errigal.
no,
I
Mount
still have to do Mount Errigal. Like,
I
so
can.
don't
My
knock it.
vertigo would be way mad. Then they say they achieve their big thing in life. Then they're just going to have, like, they're going to come down. You know, because they're always been so used to
Striving.
Humans, we need to strive. We
Do you ever
need a
notice,
goal.
though, when you have a goal, right, and I'm the worst person for this, if I tick something off, like, is this something that I really wanted to do, I have this habit of, what's next? What else do I need to do? And I'll come up with something else. I'm not actually...
Even if you don't have anything to do.
Yeah,
Would you
I'll
not,
think-
can you
I'll
not
think
like
I've been-
sit and just...
I don't think I could. Like, this podcast was a big thing, but already in my head, I have a bigger thing that I want to, like, achieve. And I'm like, can you not just settle, Lisa, with, like, one... Like,
Well, I
one
think
thing?
it's good. I think it's always good to have a goal like that, something else to work towards. But at the same time, you need to
I'd be like, just be happy.
You
Like,
know,
be happy,
yeah.
be chill. But I think that
relax
comes
on
from...
what you have achieved.
I think that's the thing. It's the stopping and looking.
Well, I am older than you, so maybe like it is. You are only
You're a lot more
28.
not. You're not.
So
I am.
mean-
Yeah, I'm like 28.
So maybe in 10 years.
10 years, we'll see how we go.
You should do that. You know, you should write yourself. I think I probably said this to you anyway. Write yourself an email because you can schedule the send. You know, schedule send
Oh,
in an
yeah.
email. Write yourself an email for when you're 38.
And date it now about the things that you'll have accomplished by your 30th.
No,
No?
not even that. Because then if you haven't accomplished them, you're just going to be feeling really, really crap. Just
Or I
like,
could spur you on. To, like,
what
get
about
your-
even just write about what you have accomplished
All right, okay.
since January 2023?
Because I wrote a lot
And
of letters.
send an email, and then, you know, well, not 10 years from now, what?
Not
6
10,
years
right,
from
6
now,
years, 6 years. Good God,
you'll
my
get
year
an
in 6
email
years.
from yourself, and you're like, what the heck?
That'll be really creepy.
I know.
But like, you've got me all over again, having a secret, thinking I have a secret admirer, only it's like Lisa and the past.
Yeah, your past version coming back to haunt you in a good way.
Cause I did a lot of them letters for you before, like
Yeah.
Lisa to Lisa before having Caitlin, and then a letter to Lisa back, I think, after having Caitlin, and then it was a more current one. And sometimes the stuff I never journaled because I thought this journal things for like. I didn't think it was for me, but for somebody that writes, I was like, why did you
Because it
cancel that
was-
idea out?
Because it was difficult for you to actually write about your own feelings. You can write
I
about
didn't like it.
other things now because you have to get real.
didn't
And
like it.
getting real is so hard and so uncomfortable.
Oh, very uncomfortable. I wasn't
Yeah.
about it at all. I was thinking, and
No.
then the stuff that was coming up out in paper, I remember thinking, why am I? Some of the stuff that I was brain dumping on the topic, I was like, why is this coming out now? Why? And there was always a reason, because when I was writing it, and when I read back through my journal from having worked with you, so a lot of stuff we covered, and that I've got over, like, it's crazy, but it's basically all revolving around delving in deep. But people don't want to do that. Sometimes people
No.
avoid it.
And that's understandable as well because, and that's like coming to counselling, it is uncomfortable as well. You know, you are coming in, you are opening yourself up to things that you have packed away.
Like Pandora's box, I used to always think. I thought I was Pandora's box.
But there really wasn't that
no.
much in it.
No,
Like
there
Pandora's
wasn't,
box,
like,
it was actually okay.
I didn't murder anybody or anything, but like to me, that box was like shut tight for like years.
Yeah.
Like years upon years. Because even like everybody close to me always says, you don't ever talk about your problems. You'll fix everybody else's before you're willing to talk about yourself. Because the only time I used to actually talk about myself was, do you know when I ever, kind of like that pressure cooker, only I used to say it was like a volcano, like it would take a couple of things to happen before I would just like blow up. And then that's when I knew, dear God, you should have kind of said something before you had that
let it go
meltdown.
too far.
Because then it depends who you're with. Then they're
But
like,
then you just
seriously?
learn the skill how to, you know, preempt.
But you know what's
An
really
eruption,
funny?
in
You
a
know
way.
what's really funny? And that's something I want to talk about. See, whenever you change, like, see, whenever you go to counselling and you're taught to, like, open up more and, like, not be, like, what I used to do years ago, and I remember you thinking, like, Lisa, that was meant on you. I used to fake, when I started secondary school, or second year of secondary school, I wasn't very confident in first year. And I remember leaving first year thinking, next year I need to be more confident. And I remember teaching myself fake it till you make it. And I had this bracelet, something out of a Kiss magazine, if anybody remembers Kiss magazine, and it said be confident, and every letter meant something. And I had it learned off to
It's your
T.
affirmation.
Oh, well, it was my, because no matter what, like no matter what was going on, I basically was like the shit. Like I am like the bee's knees, and like I was a completely different person. But see, whenever you do all this fake acting, like everything's okay all the time. Like I probably could have got 50 Oscars at this stage, could have filled the cabinet for my acting ability of pretending everything was okay up to probably about maybe 2 years ago. But when you start to unravel what's going on in your life, and literally you open up the box and start talking and using your voice, sometimes people's attitude are like, where, oh, what's going on here? Like I remember, I think it took 1 week. 1 week I had a very bad week, and I talked to you, and you're like, Lisa, you're keeping your voice down, and that burnt that throat, the throb in my throat, the lump in my throat was there, and I was like, I need to start talking. And when I stopped being fake and making it out that everything was okay, and started basically kind of reacting to people's people's bullshit. People's bullshit. When I reacted to people's bullshit and give the honest opinion of how I felt, they were all like, where's this coming out of? Like I remember being called COVID Lisa because it was like a completely different personality, because I was real, I was true to who I was, but people weren't used to the opinions that I was giving out, so they were all taken aback.
And
But
it can make you feel a wee bit uncomfortable as well. If
at
you're
the
not,
start,
yeah.
it was because I wasn't used to it, and then I felt like I was being mean. But I was like, if some people were going through the same thing as me, they wouldn't stand for like some of the stuff. Like, and I was like, why should I be sitting like putting up things that I shouldn't be putting up? Why am I not telling people how I feel and letting everything be okay when it's not? So that's another thing. Like I always think it's important. Like you do open your voice, but it's always people's reactions of you being unfiltered.
Well, that
and
triggers then the
authentic.
fear of being judged or not being liked, doesn't it?
But then I always think then you'll get the people around you,
The real people.
the real people,
Yeah.
by being your authentic and true self
That
out
is
of that
true.
time. So I think that we covered a lot.
I think we
here.
covered that was just like
we
a
covered
session.
a lot. That was like a session itself. Hopefully she'll not charge for this.
I'll give you a freebie.
She'll send me the invoice. Thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate it. If you're looking to get
Thank you so
hold-
much for asking me.
I'm going to do a wee plug now. If you're looking to get hold of Sarah, you will find her at New Beginnings Counselling on Instagram and Facebook. And she's the best. I'm not just saying it, but she is the best. Like when I worked with her, she was like 5 stars. If I could do like Trustpilot or TripAdvisor, it'd be 5 stars. So thanks.
Thank you,
Bye.
and thank you for asking me.
So tune in next week. We have another big week. So tune in, then you can see me, hear me on Spotify, see me on YouTube, and get some like little clips on TikTok and Instagram too on the Lisa Logic podcast. So that is all for this week, and a big thank to our sponsors, Muff Liquor Company. No alcohol tonight, but maybe a little bit of alcohol after this to celebrate such a successful podcast. So thank you for tuning in.
Take off the makeup, I just wanna see who you are. A time flies so down the goodbyes, we'll spend the night staring up at the stars. See, I was told long ago, me and you was gonna go far. And if so, please let me know, 'cause you know I couldn't do you no harm.